What's good, y'all? It's Freaky Friday.
And today we're talking about intercultural and interracial dating.
Welcome to the Renegade Relationship Realists with Rev-N-Rachael Pierre McAllister and Rachel Dillon. Please be advised, this channel is rated R for realism.
But they were fighting each other.
I like Star Trek.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It was one of the originals, and so there were ones that were white on the left and black on the right, and then there were the other ones which were white on the right and white on the black on the left, and they were at battle with each other, killing each other because they were so opposed to each other. And of course, the Star Trek crew comes in. And they're like, "Why are you fighting each other? You're identical." They're like, "Oh no. He has black on the right, and we are black on the left, and that's totally different." And so, why?
Well, because there are differences beyond the appearances, obviously, right? So I'm dating what looks like a black man. He was from a completely different culture. He was from Panama.
The Northwest.
Northwest.
Oh, no.
He was a Midwestern boy.
No. I'm talking about. I'm not talking about my husband. I am talking about someone who I dated previously.
Okay, I'm
who's
sorry.
from Panama.
My bad.
And so the cultures were very, very. Now, if we're walking down the street, it looked like we were just two black people walking down the street. Everything would seem the same. If you listen to his accent a little bit, then you'd know he's from a different culture. But what we found is there was lots of friction between us on some things because he was not African American.
Right.
He was Panamanian, and he's had a very different way of looking at women, looking at the African American people in themselves. As a matter of fact, it was so interesting because we were at such odds on certain things because he had some judgment, I'll call it judgment, around African American people and the issues they have in America being black. And it was very clear to me, he didn't know, my definition was, you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And what I did was then I schooled him by having him watch certain like Roots and Eyes on the Prize that had the whole, Jim Crow laws and all of that. And it was amazing. By the time he threw up on one, and on the second one he got so ill looking at what had happened to African American people in this country, I never heard another word of judgment out of that man's mouth after that. So it's just, we look like two black people, but no.
It was awareness and perspective.
Totally.
But since this is a Freaky Friday, I'm going to ask the question.
Ooh.
How was the sex?
Can I say that? Do you really want to know that answer?
I think everybody wants to know that answer.
Okay, I hope he never watches this. And it was off the chain. That's all I'm saying.
That's all we want to hear. Thank you.
So Ryan, what advice do you have for people that are dating somebody from a different culture, from a different race? What advice would you give them?
Be open.
Okay.
Have acceptance and be open to learn what is happening on the other person's in their mind and how they grew up. Because your upbringing and the experiences you had as a child and in school and everything, that makes up who you are.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And my growth and my childhood is completely different from Kamisha's. She grew up in a even though we were in the same state, just technically like 30 miles away from each other.
You grew up in the same state, really?
Yeah.
And is that much difference in the state?
There's that much difference because she was in Los Angeles and I was in Orange County. And if people who know what Orange County is like, it's totally different from LA.
Interesting.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But
So
I'll trust you on that. I'll absolutely trust you on this.
they say the people in Orange County are behind the orange curtain.
Oh,
So
interesting.
It's
Okay.
it's an interesting experience. So not only that, but there are cultural differences between the African American perspectives on life and a white perspective on life.
Right.
So if you are in an experience with someone who is from a different culture, just be open to hear. People need to listen.
Yes.
If you don't listen, you close off, you're not learning anything.
So I have a question. My question is, and I get under the black and white or and interracial, but this is Freaky Friday, and so I have a crazy question because I just don't know the answer.
Well, then ask the question.
Well, the question is culturally, racially, is the sex different? Is there A piece where you go, you know, as a white male, I have never experienced this because generally white people don't do that.
Or we're built
vice
differently.
versa.
We're built differently.
Yeah, and we're built differently. So is there anything that you would say not belong to a race, but like, you know, when it comes to some black people ski, but the majority of black people don't ski. I mean, we're just not into the cold necessarily. Not everybody. I'm not saying doing stereotypical. I'm saying the majority.
I
of
don't
us aren't
ski
doing
either
that.
because it's freaking cold.
Well, I know, but when you look across the board as to
Right.
who's skiing,
Okay.
you know, black people,
Or ice skating.
100%.
Or ice skating.
And so it's just certain things, right? And so I'm curious. Is there something that you can pin to? Because I know you're wonderful, and I know that Kamisha's not the only girlfriend you've ever had. Okay, so based on that, I'm asking that
He'd
question.
never dated anyone before her.
Yeah, right.
She is the only
Yes,
one.
all these
Yeah,
years.
right. No.
So is there anything that you would say is different based on who
Sex.
on her race?
I would say there